Hello and welcome into the latest edition of the Fore-All Podcast. I'm Jesse Morrison alongside Max Bechtold. Max, we were originally going to do this podcast on Tuesday, but it's a good thing that we didn't because there is a new commissioner in the Lpga. Craig Kessler, pretty young guy, was the COO of the PGA of America for a bit. Just kind of what are your thoughts on this? The new commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, no kidding. A lot's happened in the world of women's golf in the last 2 days. So good that we're going to be able to cover all that. I love this hire on paper. I think I really like that they went young. I think that's something that golf leadership in general needs is a little bit more youth, a little bit more people who kind of have grown up in the digital age. When I think we're seeing YouTube golf become so big with young people, and we've seen a lot of the tours kind of fall behind. I think that this is a good hire because of that. You look at his experience at the PGA of America, obviously very impressive. Before that was in Topgolf. So you talk about like young, youthful, like you think of Topgolf. That's something that's popular with people who aren't even golfers.
Yeah.
And so, I like this hire a lot. It seems like the players so far who have commented on it like the hire as well. Like, I'm assuming they were briefed on it at some point and they've done their research or they've heard him talk a little bit, because a lot of the players that I've seen have been very, very excited, and the brief statement he put out I thought was pretty strong. So I think this is a pretty good hire on paper.
And what I kind of like about this is it said before he was with PGA of America, he was with something called Buff City Soap. It was a retail company based in Dallas, and under his leadership, or when he was CEO, he was CEO of Buff City Soap. The company grew from 100 to 260 locations, and we always talk about how the LPGA needs to grow, and I like the fact that he was with a company that, and under his leadership, something grew, and so that gives me some positivity, just for people that might not understand what golf commissioners do, because you kind of just guide people through kind of what his job is going to be, because in other sports they're kind of work for the commissioner.
Yeah, in golf it's a lot more organization. It's a lot more, obviously, like new rules and everything. It's almost like a CEO position, I would say. Where when you see the new rules that have kind of come in with pace of play, I think a lot of that kind of came from the commissioner's office. Scheduling is a huge part of it. Getting people on the schedule, or getting tournaments on the schedule, getting sponsors. I don't know exactly how much they deal with media and TV rights, but I'm assuming it's a pretty big part of their job. And then you also look at different initiatives and programs. Stuff like the LEAP program, which we talked about a while ago, which gives amateurs a path to the pros without having to go on the Epson Tour or through Q School. Stuff like that, I think that Molly Marcusaman was at least overseeing the development of that previously. So it's a lot of stuff with scheduling, sponsors, being a face of the league, kind of just like you see with the NFL and the NBA, where Adam Silver and Roger Goodell are kind of the face of the league a little bit. That's a big part of it as well. So that's a lot of what the LPGA commissioner will be doing now.
Something else I like about him is seems like a really smart guy. He got his undergraduate degree from Georgetown, MBA from Harvard. So you can't really argue with those two schools. Those are some of the best schools in the country.
And everything I've read is that this guy is a real get for the LPGA Tour, where this is a guy who's been really rising the ranks, obviously has a ton of experience in golf. Just feels like, it kind of feels like when you see a college team, maybe a smaller college team hire like that big coordinator who's ready to take that big position. Yeah. That's kind of what this feels like.
And one more little note that I'll add before we move on. He, with the support, this is from the release on LPGA.com, with the support of 40 fellow dads, he authored a national best-selling book titled The Dad Advice Project. The book is a collection of stories and advice for new fathers. He lives in Dallas with his wife Nicole and their 3 sons. So big dad guy.
I like that idea though, because and he said it in his opening statement, is that a big part of the LPGA is their partnership with youth programs. to really inspire the next generation of
Yeah, I saw that at
golfers.
the Epson Tour. A lot of the crowd was made up of youth golfers.
Exactly, and I think that's a big deal. So somebody who at least thinks he's an expert in that to some extent, I think could be valuable.
All right, let's move on. We will get to, there is a tournament in the LPGA this week. We'll get to it. It's going on currently. It's not the greatest field in the world, but we will talk about it a little bit. First, we want to get into the college golf that just went down, the women's college golf. We had we had individual national champion and Northwestern winning it all as well. Max, just what kind of were your takeaways from the national championships for women's golf?
Yeah, Maria Jose Marin winning the individual. Not a huge surprise to me. A player who came from Arkansas, obviously a school that has a lot of, great players on tour right now, a great history, and they were one of the best teams in the country all year. Maria Jose Marin is kind of their top player. She's top, I think she's number 11 for amateur rankings in the world. So this is a huge win for her. Gets her a couple of those leap points we were just talking about. She just barely defeated Mirabelle Tang, who is from Florida State, just won the Annika Award, so she's added to that prestigious list now. So Maria Jose Marin had to take on the best competition that there was. She had to beat the best of the best, and she did that. On the team side, this was one of the most thrilling team competitions I think I've seen, and obviously it's dramatic because you've got a very David versus Goliath kind of situation here. Stanford has all of the acclaimed best players. They've got 5 players who I would not be shocked to see on the LPGA Tour someday, and all of them are potentially returning next year, which makes them even scarier there. But then you got Northwestern, who, it's tough for these cold weather places to really compete. Obviously, facilities are a big part of that, where you can only play golf half the year in a lot of these places. So for Northwestern to come out, get their first championship was huge. I don't want to call them like a scrappy team of like nobodies, but like that's just kind of the vibe they had, is that they all played just really solid golf.
Sure, they played smart golf too.
Yes, that was a big joke. A lot of the week was, or a lot of the final round was, about the 2 institutions that were represented, Stanford and Northwestern. But they hit a lot of putts. They didn't panic. There was a few times down the stretch where it looked like, because Northwestern jumped out to a huge lead, and there were a few times down the stretch that it looked like they were going to give it away. But it seemed like they always did just enough to get the best of Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly surprised that Northwestern won.
It's a huge upset.
Given our predictions, I think I picked Arkansas, you picked Stanford, right?
Yep.
And yeah, so I think both of those being our picks, I mean, we kind of went with chalky
Absolutely
picks that you might expect in women's college golf. And Northwestern, shout out to them. I mean, do you think that NIL could kind of play a role in kind of shifting things for college golf, where maybe some cold weather schools could get more involved and be a little bit better because they can just offer more money sometimes?
Well, this is where it gets interesting with college golf specifically. And I don't know all the details, and I'm not going to pretend that I know all the details of how Northwestern's NIL works. But you look at them, they've got 2 very prominent PGA Tour players right now, in Luke Donald, who's the Ryder Cup captain, and Matthew Fitzpatrick. Those are 2 players who might be funneling some money into the Northwestern program, at least into facilities where maybe you can get some better warm weather facilities, maybe you can get some better indoor facilities. So that's a potential thing that's interesting, and maybe directly 2 players. They talked about Luke Donald yesterday, and one of the announcers said that he had talked to Luke Donald the day of, and Luke Donald was very excited about this team. And so, yeah, I don't know what the situation there is, but I do think that could become a factor, especially with how much money is in the men's golf game.
Yeah, and I did want to go back to Maria Jose Marin. What do you think her future is, on the tour? Is she going to be a player that really good college golfer doesn't necessarily translate, or do you think she can be a player that, goes on to have some wins on the LPGA Tour?
Yeah, you and I were talking about this, I think, last week, where it is really interesting, where a lot of the great college golfers turn out to be good pros, but not a lot of them turn out to be really great pros. When you look at the top of the world rankings, so many of them didn't go to college in the United States. A lot of them are international, obviously, but even the ones that are local, players like Nelly Korda, players like Angel Yin, didn't go to college, kind of prodigy figures. And so I do think it'll be interesting. I mean, when you look at somebody, just for example, Alexa Pano, who maybe isn't the greatest player in the world right now on the LPGA Tour, but she has now 3 years of LPGA Tour experience, and she's younger than most college players.
Yeah.
And that's just a huge advantage. And I think we see that with Angel Yin, where it took Angel Yin a while to break out, but now she has, and she's still relatively young. Yeah. And so she's got a long career ahead of her. When you look at somebody like Leona Maguire, who's almost the same age as Lexi Thompson, like, that's the thing, is she's only been on the tour for 4 full years roughly, and she's already a player who's kind of, in theory, past her prime age. So it's always tricky with college golfers, but I do think Maria Jose Marin has a great future. She's had a lot of big tournament experience. You look at now, these players are coming in, they've gone through stuff like the Augusta National Women's Amateur and some more competitive college, finals tournaments. Maybe they are more well prepared. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and, hopefully Rose Zhang is a player that can kind of buck that trend.
Yep.
She's considered a prodigy, and she did go to college.
Absolutely. Ingrid Lindblad, who has had a really good start to this season, obviously went to LSU. So there are players who can get past that. We'll just have to see if she's one of them.
And we've seen it plenty of times on the men's side, which is completely different. But
yes.
We have seen, obviously Tiger went to college.
Scotty
Scheffler went to college.
Jordan Spieth, yeah.
I think Justin Thomas went to college.
Alabama.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you've seen it on the men's side. We haven't really seen it as much on the women's side. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think it would help grow the game because somebody that can identify with, oh, that player went to my school, so I'm going to cheer for them. I think that could definitely be a positive for the tour if they can get the college golf. If the college golf players can have success. All right, moving on. We did have an Epson Tour event last week, and we've been talking a little bit more about the Epson Tour as it just rolled through the Phoenix area. Gina Kim won for the second time this year. What did you make of her performance?
Yeah, it appears right now that Gina Kim is the first player to essentially lock up her card for next year. This early in the season, that frees you up a lot with scheduling. You can go try to qualify possibly for more LPGA Tour events on like a Monday qualifier instead of going the Epson Tour route every week. I think I looked if with her current numbers as far as points, she would have been, I think, 11th last year in the final rankings. So with still over half the season left to go, seems like a really safe bet to get in the top 10. And so it's really, really impressive for her as a player who's kind of been up and down on the LPGA Tour. She's played in the Epson Tour, then the LPGA, then sent back down. It looks like she's playing with a ton of confidence right now, and it's good to see. She's been in great form.
We do have a major this week, and it's the LPGA Legends Championship for the Legends, so the senior tour for the women's side. We have a Sorenstam at the top of the leaderboard, 6 under.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. That'd be a pretty fun story. Obviously, the Sorenstams were kind of the original sister duo on the LPGA Tour, and since then we've seen the Jutanugarns, the Kordas, and now the EYs, who we're going to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, that'd be a super, super fun story, but I have to say, I think she's got an uphill battle having to face Christy Kerr with the kind of form that Christy Kerr is coming into this with.
Yeah, Christy Kerr, we saw her play on the Epson Tour a couple weeks ago.
And played very well.
Had kind of a tough final round, but she played very well. Some other notable names here. Julia Sergis, we have an article up about her currently.
Their article went up on Monday, so go check that out.
Yeah, and then Angela Stanford's pretty noticeable. She's 6 shots back, but she's still pretty far
I wouldn't count her out.
Yeah, a lot of players, still alive in this one. So, kind of, who do you expect to win? And people can't watch this, right?
I don't believe so, no. But I think Christy Kerr has got this. She's in such good form. She's one of these players where it's a little bit of the situation that happens on the PGA Tour also, where every couple of years a big time player will kind of just come onto the tour and still kind of be in like Lpga form, which I think Christy Kerr kind of is, and join the Legends Tour and kind of be a dominant force. And I would expect that to happen. I'm also looking at Jill McGill. Who was
Love
playing,
the name.
Yeah, it's a great name. Who's a senior major winner herself, and she played really well today up until the last couple holes where she kind of gave it away. But it's very clear she's pretty confident on this course. She's a really good player, so I'd look out for her as well.
So I'm going to say Angela Stanford or Charlotta Sorenstam.
Yep.
I think she might hang on. 3-shot lead. That's a pretty solid lead. I know it's the first round. She probably won't, but that's why I have my backup pick with Angela Stanford.
I like it. I think Angela Stanford is one that you can't count out.
All right, let's get to the tournament going on right now on the LPGA Tour, the Mexico Riviera Maya Open at Mayakoba.
Yes.
Another one of these tournaments with
we talked about last week. Some of these tournaments need to edit their names a little bit.
Yeah, it's a problem with college football bowl games and golf tournaments. I think the most there's a little bit you can shorten it down and it'll be okay. But anyway, not the best field for this one. Let's not sugarcoat it.
This will be the worst field of the year. It's kind of in a bad spot on the schedule. Next week is a major at Erin Hills in Wisconsin. Not necessarily the easiest place to get to. I anticipate a lot of the players will be traveling on Saturday and Sunday who are playing in it. And obviously you have to deal with international travel also. And so I do think it's just in a tough spot on the schedule right now, being played directly in front of a major. Only 4 of the top 25 ranked players in the world are in this field. Most average fields on the LPGA Tour have more than 4 players ranked in the top 10. So this is a lower end field, but we've had some players, some notable players, fire good first rounds, and so it's still possible that we get a pretty good leaderboard out of this at the end.
Yeah, we have a solid. I mean, it's been a good tournament so far. You've got 4
First
players.
Of all, it's packed. There's so many players in it.
4 players tied for the lead, and then tied for 5th, which is technically second. You've got I think that's 5 players tied for 5th, but really it's one shot back.
One back. Yeah.
There's 5 players 1 shot back. So I mean, it might not be the best field, but there's good players. I mean, it's a good tournament, was I meant to say.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you've got one of the EY sisters, doing her thing in this one, tied for the lead.
Yeah, and she's a little bit of the more inconsistent player, I think, right now we're seeing. She's had some really good finishes, some not so good finishes. She had kind of a controversial ruling that kept her out of making the weekend one week this year. But she's one of these, we talk about these 4 Japanese superstar rookies, which is the EY twins Chisato and her sister Akie, and then Miyu Yamashita and Ryo Takeda, of course. And this is one of those players in that group. And so this would be a great chance. I mean, when I look at leaderboards like this is just a great chance for someone to get their name out there. Someone to get into that winner's circle. Someone to, maybe they'll be in featured groups in the future. Get some momentum. The winner, if they haven't already qualified for the U.S. Open, does get into the U.S. Open. So you've got a lot of players who are playing for a whole lot this week. So I think it's setting up to be exciting, even if some of the big names aren't present.
Yeah, the leaderboard right now, and I apologize if I butcher this, but Bianca Pagdanagan, I think I said that right, is leading. Jenny Shin tied for the lead. We mentioned her, Chisato Iwai, and then the other player tied for the lead, Brianna Doe.
Who's been playing on the Epson Tour this year, and because of the weaker field, got into this event. So this is a huge opportunity for Brianna Doe to stamp her place on the LPGA Tour moving forward without even having to worry about the Epson Tour the rest of the year.
And just kind of, who do you see winning this tournament?
It's hard to pick against Chisato Iwai right now. After taking the lead in the first round, I just think she's probably arguably a top 3 player in the field anyway, so being up at that top of the leaderboard. Bianca is one that I'm keeping an eye on. She's dangerous. She hits the ball very long. She's a powerful player. Inconsistent, but if she can catch fire this week, it will get really, really interesting down the stretch.
I'm going to go Brianna Doe just because I think the motivation of not wanting to play on the Epson Tour is not saying that it's bad to be on the Epson Tour, but you'd rather be on the LPGA Tour. So I think I'm going to go with her to win this. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to watch down the stretch.
For Brianna Doe, like, to put into context, this would be like if a AAA player got called up and played one series and hit a home run in every single one. You're probably staying on the team for a while after that, and that's just kind of, this is her opportunity to go out there and get it.
Yeah, anyway, where can people find this tournament this weekend?
This is, there's a full, up on the site, there's a how to watch. Decent hours on Golf Channel. I believe it gets 2 hours the next 2 days and then 3 hours on Sunday. I might have that switched between Saturday and Sunday. But it's on Golf Channel, and there's going to be some streaming on NBC Sports Digital also. Not ideal, but for the level of tournament it is, I think these are pretty fair hours.
And I did want to mention one player we talked, she won a couple weeks ago on the Epson Tour out here in Arizona. Not a good start to her round today. Sophia Popov, 8 over. So the carrying that momentum over for the former major champion, not seeming like it's happening right now.
No, there were some really high scores this week. I know there were some players from Mexico who were brought in who maybe aren't the greatest players, aren't full-time LPGA players, but there's some pretty high scores out there, and 3 withdrawals already for illness. I don't know if that's a cause for concern, but something to look out for the rest of the week if there's kind of a bug going around right now.
Yeah, not great going into a major championship.
No, it isn't. And once again,
around.
When you say why aren't many players playing this week, stuff like that might be a reason why.
Yeah, and you had 5 players shoot plus double-digit scores today. You have 19 over, 16 over, 13 over, and 2 12 overs. And you mentioned the 3 players withdrew. So kind of some interesting storylines to watch going into this major. Hopefully it's not anything serious and it won't affect the major championship. But as you mentioned, major championship next week. What can people check out on the site? Fore-All.com, FORE-ALL.com.
Well, coming this Sunday, we're starting a series about the 75th anniversary. We've got some interviews lined up with some really, really cool people, a few major champions. And so there's going to be a lot of articles kind of about the development of the LPGA Tour and how it's changed. Those are going to be going up every Sunday, starting this Sunday. Then next week, I'm going to be on site at Erin Hills. It's about a couple hours from my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin. So I'm going to be journeying up there and going to be on site for 4 days. And look forward to getting you some content from there. Some new pictures. It'll be a lot of fun. I love going to major championships. This will be the 3rd one that I go to from the LPGA Tour. And so, looking forward to being out there, and I'll bring a bunch of on-site coverage. Yeah,
make sure to check out Max's coverage of the U.S. Women's Open. Should be a great tournament. We will obviously have another podcast next week that we'll dive deeper into that, go into our predictions, and preview that. But enjoy the golf this weekend. Yes, not the greatest field, but so far it's been a good tournament. So check that out, and we'll talk to you next week.